Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Town Hall Academy from the Remarkable Results Radio podcast. And boy, I'm excited about this. And there's another reason why I'm excited about being here today is we weren't here last week, and it felt really weird as I was putting on my tuxedo last week because my son got married, and I think you all know that. And thank you for the kind words with that. And but we didn't do a town hall last week because you would have been involved in the wedding at that time. So thank you for being here. Next week we're doing social media how-to strategies. That's going to kind of be fun. And oh, by the way, something so interesting is we're releasing, not interesting but exciting, we're releasing all of the Town Hall Academies as podcasts. And so they're all going to be available on the audio format. We've put out 13 of them so far, and we're going to catch up in the next couple of weeks. We'll have them all out. And then besides having the video repurposed, everyone, we'll have the audio repurposed, say, within a week of this. And I know so many people listen while they're commuting and walking and cutting the grass and doing things. So you can't always be in front of a video screen. So I think it's going to allow more people to enjoy what everyone in the industry is doing to pay things forward. We're here with a great subject, hiring for team dynamics. What was really what the outcome of this is that Jude and Dwayne and Ryan were with us on employee loyalty a while back, and we almost all of a sudden came out and said, we've got to do something called team dynamics. They all agreed. And then we brought Tom Ham in, and he's going to bring some exciting perspective. And let me introduce our team. That we have here. Dwayne Myers in the top right corner for me with Dynamic Automotive. This multi-store group was selected top 10 automotive shop in 2014 from Motor Age, and they just opened their fourth shop. Dwayne invests time in the industry with the Auto Care Association, serving on the education committee with CCPN. Dwayne was recently honored as one of only 17 outstanding individuals that qualified for the prestigious 2017 World Class Technician Award presented by Auto Care and ASE. And Dwayne's a podcast veteran with me, recently being on episode 222 as we talked about his 2017 award and a whole lot other things. And it's a great episode. Ryan Clough, the owner of Dubworks in Cincinnati, is in the bottom right corner on your screen. He's an 18-year veteran in the automotive service industry, a multi-shop owner. Ryan has automated his business that gives him time to consult for the Institute of Automotive Business Excellence. He is known in the industry as the process guy. Ryan teaches several business management classes for the automotive industry with me in episode 92. Jude Larson, top left, president, owner, and lead consultant for JML Real Solutions. He's a frequent speaker, trainer at industry events. Jude has this vast business experience. Service advisor, owner of a hybrid online printing and marketing company, a top performer in the financial industry, record-setting career in retail management. Jude uses his rich experience and business success as he consults, trains, and coaches results-focused solutions with clients. And to top all of that off, Jude is a shop owner. Wham! Tom Ham, welcome, new face to the Academy. With the help of his wife, Deb, Tom and Deb are the creator and owners of Automotive Management Network, an 11,000 plus member website dedicated to the exchange of vehicle service management information. I'm a member, and I love what he does there. Tom has written extensively on a variety of management topics. And Tom, I see him all the time, everywhere. You do such a great job of engaging the industry. Tom got his start in the auto service industry by pumping gas in the late 60s. Can anyone here relate to that? Today, Tom and his wife split their time between Florida and Michigan, where they operate Auto-Centric, an import specialty shop in Grand Rapids. Tom and Deb have 5 children, including 2 sons and a daughter who served in the Iraq War as U.S. Marines. Tell them we appreciate their service, Tom.
Thank you.
For fun, he enjoys traveling, fine dining, religion, and of course, politics. Oh boy. Yeah, and the reason that I say that, team, here is because I see his rants on occasion. We were talking last night and we got into it. Somehow it always comes up. So look at hiring for team dynamics. You know, when I really looked at all of the input from you, and I looked at the research that I've been doing lately, I realized that this could almost be a 2 or 3 part series. We're going to get into it as much as and best as we can, and if we have to come back, we will, because this is so important. I hope to talk about today, or I hope to engage the team into good recruiting, what a good hiring process is, assessments. I'm interested in knowing about that. What are the right questions to ask, and how do you integrate someone new into your business culture? Jude, I want to go to you first with the first thought or the first question. How do you find out who they are before you hire them?
Sure, Carm. That has a lot to do with what you just mentioned, assessments. There's lots of other techniques that you can do without assessments. You can take them to dinner. You can do things like that. You know, a little bit out of the norm. You know, take them out for a meal. Watch how they treat the wait staff. You know, we've heard those types of techniques and things, and that'll give you a certain amount. But they can still be on guard to a great extent, even through an experience like that. So assessments, and you got to use the right assessments. You have to use ones that are pretty thorough, not just a quick, you know, what type of personality is this guy? I mean, you want some of that because you want to be able to match the team together and have the right personality mix and all of that. But really, you need to go deep into the core of who they are, and the right assessments will do that. They'll tell you kind of the DNA makeup of that person, and then you can compare that to the rest of your team, to the position that they want to work in, to a lot of different stuff. So it's not 100% guaranteed. They say that on average, if you're trying to hire like the perfect fit rock star, if you will, for a position, they say that you have about a 16% chance using traditional methods, and by using really deep assessing, you can increase that to about 85% odds of getting a rock star. Now, they still may not work out. We're all human beings, you know, and that kind of thing, but it increases your chances of it, of you knowing who they are deeper and getting a better fit.
So are we hiring for attitude, competency? What are we hiring for, guys?
Yep.
All attitude.
Tom says attitude. Interesting. Well, I'm going to sit back here and hear you guys debate this.
I think you need all of it.
The thing is, you have to have the right attitude. I mean, we can teach, you know, the skills they need, but they have to have the right attitude coming in. They got to be on board to be with the team, and if they are, you know, as long as they have certain skills, we can grow them and get them to where they need to be.
You're big on that. Episode 222, I think we covered a lot of that. Good stuff. I mean, you know, tell me a little bit about your hiring process that builds that team dynamic. And you know what's so interesting is when we came up with the name Hiring for Team Dynamics, Dwayne's company is Dynamic Automotive. And he said, was that a play on words? I says, no, it's just perfect.
I wanted to know who to send the check to. But when it comes to, you know, you have to spend time with people that you're interviewing, and it's just not me. It has to be the people in the team, who they're working with. The best thing is, you know, if they spend some time with the team, you know, they can come and interview with me and the shop manager and a couple of the technicians, but then spend some time, especially if they're dedicated to walk out in the shop. Because if you take them for a tour around the facility, because, you know, we have a quick lube, repair shop, car wash, take them around, introduce them to people, give them the opportunity. If they start a conversation, that kind of tell you if they'll melt together or not. If you're looking for the best team, which is what I look for, is the best fit for the team, not the most successful or best technician. I want somebody that's going to complement the team so everybody raises up.
I think I'll just chime in for a minute. I think everybody agrees on the attitude and the personality, and I will say that I found it easier in what I call the front of the house. You know, advisors, customer service. You just have a bigger pool of people, and you can pull people out of other industries. They don't necessarily have automotive, but they're just skilled in customer service or maybe skilled in sales, and we can train them. I think everyone would agree it's probably a little harder with technicians. I mean, we really want to get, you know, guys there with great personalities, and there's a lot of great ones out there. And I mean, I've been really blessed to have, you know, some of the people come through, you know, our shops. But I think there's a lot of guys out there that are going to be watching this thinking, there's a shortage of technicians, and you're telling me I got to, be really kind of choosy. And to that, I would say, a bad apple is going to be tough. There's no time like day one. If you get someone that has the qualifications and you're not 100% sure about, the attitude, the personality, but you're just, you feel like you got to give them a chance. You really get a good opportunity on day one to set the standards for what you expect in terms of being a team player or having regular interviews with them, in the initial period of time, just to try to see and all of that. I think, I'm sure I'm not the only one here that's made a bad hire. It will happen from time to time. Ultimately you have to give them a chance, but I definitely agree with what I think it was Dwayne was saying about, bringing people in, and that can be a challenge too. Getting them in, during shop time if they have another job, but if they got a lunch break, I've had guys that have stopped in lunch breaks, and definitely watching how they socialize and how they interact. And, a lot of it, I think, we've used BERT key online testing, but a lot of guys out there will agree it's still kind of a gut instinct thing. And, I've kind of tailored a list of questions that I use to kind of, ferret out some of the details. And, people are always on their best behavior on an interview. So you kind of got to keep that in mind as well. So.
Well, I can jump in. When we surveyed the membership, the things that stood out, the things that shop owners mentioned the most were, and this is in order of priority, attention to detail was number 1, diagnostic ability was number 2, time management was number 3, problem solving number 4, number 5 was comebacks, and number 6 was going the extra mile. Those are the top things they were looking for, and they found the most challenging to find.
So would that benefit our audience by writing them down in designing your questions around those issues, or listen for the cues that tell you that those are going to make a fit in your company?
Unfortunately, as everybody knows, the ultimate test is to put them back there for 30 days, and then I'll tell you whether they're going to work or not. Somebody mentioned the Burke assessments, and I think that and probably other service provider people that provide that service are very good. Where that has become useful, I don't know so much in a positive sense, but sometimes in an elimination sense, is where it's a scale of 1 to 100, and you give the technician the assessment test, and he scores 7. Well, he's not. I don't think he's trainable. He's not going anywhere. So the assessments, I think, can be very helpful. It's one new tool, one of many that can be used.
Guys, Dwayne brought up working with shop foreman and maybe another tech. Have you all relied on their input in hiring decisions for a technician?
Absolutely. I'm actually in the process of hiring a couple of new technicians right now, and I didn't as much in the past, but this time through I'm leaning heavily on my shop foreman, and he's part of the hiring process, interviewing, whether that's over the phone to weed out, so to speak, to make sure that they're what we're looking for, but especially in person. We're actually doing live interviews in some cases, if you will, where he's actually watching them go through a process on a vehicle, because we're hoping to not have to go through that dreaded 30-day process and know a little deeper ahead of time, kind of thing. So yeah, I lean heavily on my foreman and really the whole staff, because everybody, like others have mentioned, everybody has to be on board and know that this is a good fit.
I'm sure each of you have one major piece of learning that happens when you make a bad hire. You say, I got to be careful of that next time. Or, boy, that blindsided me. Can any of you share one of those aha moments that you never want to repeat again, or it helped your intuition get stronger?
Don't be desperate. Don't hire because you're desperate for someone. Of course, try not to let that happen, but I think it's better to deal with being a little shorthanded than it is dealing with a bad apple.
Ryan?
Yeah, I have definitely one to my credit, and I definitely, it came right to mind. And he interviewed so well. He had experience. He even had a good reference. It was before I did the testing, so I wonder if that would have weeded him out. But after a month, he literally disappeared. Just didn't show up, wouldn't call, and then, anyways, it got weird. But as for what I learned from it, I think just knowing again that when people interview, they're going to be on their best behavior. And I think it probably modified my questions a little bit. Actually, I'll tell you what I do think in his case, and this has been really true in the people that I've hired. Nobody wants to take a step down. And I do think that given that particular individual's previous positions, I might have interpreted the position that I hired him for as a step down. And that is a red flag for me. If there's one thing that I see clearly in interviews and resumes, in myself, everybody wants to be part of something growing, something getting bigger, better, however you want to, quantify that. And people are on a career path. And it's true in life. People do have, times where they need to take a step sideways or even a step backwards. It happens. And I'm not saying I'd rule somebody out for that, but it's just something I take into consideration. If someone's been, a general manager and then they want to come in and, run the counter in customer service, I just think to myself, boy, are you going to be happy in this position? And so, I think that's the lesson that I learned there is this gentleman took a step backward, and I think he was probably desperate for the job. Maybe that didn't, come through in the interview, but yeah.
Thanks for that. Tom, any major lesson you came away with?
Just a quick comment on a couple of things. I think it's worth pressing hard on the issues of drugs and alcohol, because those can really bite you. In general, one thing that makes hiring somewhat difficult, especially for a technician, is technicians tend to be, the best technicians are good with things. They're not fantastic with people. That's the nature of that's the characteristic. And the reverse is true also. People who are extremely good with people and people friendly usually aren't the top technicians. And you got to find a balance there. We don't want anybody who's the rudest person in the world in our shop. But I think you can be easily sucked into hiring somebody who just seems like the nicest guy you ever interviewed, but he really can't fix a sandwich, much less a car. And he has all the ASE certs and he has everything else. He's managed to accomplish check off all the boxes, and lo and behold, you get him back there and you just find out it doesn't work. So we really try to keep that in mind. The service advisors, we want people persons, and technicians, we want people who are good with things and kind of friendly.
Jude, you sent me a comment, and it said, "What would you do different if you could never fire anyone?" Boy, do I love that comment. I don't know, guys, but that's powerful. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I actually got that out of Simon Sinek, I think his last name is.
Sinek, yeah.
Sinek, one of his newer books, The Leaders Eat Last. And I was listening to it as I was commuting or something, and that came across. And if I'm just going to be transparent here, I was in the middle of letting two people go when I listened to it, and it really impacted me. I mean, I was really thinking about it, thinking, what did I do in this process that set up to where I am, how did I get here? What was not done that should have been done? Maybe what was done that shouldn't have been done. I mean, so looking at it, and so it really kind of makes you spin things around and look at it from a different angle if you think about that, because there are some, companies out there, he gives examples in the book of companies that have made that their policy. They do not ever fire anyone. And so if you have that policy, obviously you're never going to hire somebody, well, if you're smart anyway, you're never going to hire somebody out of desperation, because once you've got them, that's it. They're there forever. And so you have to make sure that you've done your homework before you're considering bringing somebody on board and making them a part of your team. If they're going to be permanently a part, it makes you just think from a different perspective. So if you're looking at a guy and you're interviewing and you're going through the whole process, and because as business owners, as shop owners, of course, with technician shortages and that sort of thing, we can get desperate. And so we've got a bazillion hours we need to get out, and we don't have enough techs to do it. This guy has a pulse. he passed the mirror test. You put the mirror under the nose and it fogs up, then bring him in. But you're setting yourself up for catastrophe when you do that kind of thing. So you got to slow down the process. Like somebody mentioned earlier, go through the pain and suffering of, being overbooked for the season that you need to do it right and build it right. Because when you do that, you can go on, indefinitely at that point. But while you're in that process, if you think this person, if I could never get rid of them, do I still want them? If they're here for life, they're literally the rest of their life, the rest of my life, the rest of the business life, they're here, do I want them? And it's going to make you think a little deeper, I think. It does me anyway.
What it kind of reminds me of, guys, is the Covey begin with the end in mind. What if you were sitting down across from someone and begin with the end in mind is replaced with, what would you do different if you could never fire this person?
Yeah. What's the relationship going to look like 20 years from now?
Yeah.
30 years from now? What are they going to be doing in the business, and where are they going to be at, and where are you going to be at, and where's the team going to be at?
Anyone want to comment on that?
I think a good thing to ask someone is their goals. What they want, not just out of employment with you, but out of their life. Where are they heading in the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year? You can even go out to 10 or 20 if you really want to stretch it. But I think once you start asking them, what their goals are, you get them talking, and then you ask questions about what they said. And if they're truthful, they're going to be quick to answer. They're going to, and they'll stay with their story. It helps you weed out people that are just trying to tell you what you want to hear instead of what you need to know about them. And I think if you know what someone's goals are, one is you can help them achieve it, and two, if you're in alignment with them.
Ryan, have you ever sat down and shared the vision of your company, your mission, or your culture, and looked them in the eye while you were telling them that and said, this will or won't be a fit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, my interview process usually starts with sharing the vision for the company. And, if I'm going to, I stopped bringing everybody in person because I realized, I'll do a quick phone interview just to try to weed it out. And I usually tell them, let me spend a few minutes on the phone with you, tell you about my company so you can decide if you think it's a good fit for you. Make it a little bit about them. And, if they're still interested, then I can kind of go into tell me a little bit more about you and, kind of the what's required situation there. So.
Excellent. Guys, I've been around the horn just a little bit, and I recall back in a bunch of my teammates that I led came in and said, it's him or us. Has a team fire ever happened in your world?
Boy, everybody's jumping up to answer that one, aren't they? I just had one.
Okay.
So, yeah. I've worked with a lot of clients too, doing the same thing, and in some cases, this particular client wasn't an automotive shop per se, but they have one employee left. We went through and had to clean out because they had. They'd hired their friends, which is what a lot of us want to do when we start a business and we're excited. We're doing something we love. We have passion for it. We don't necessarily know how to run a business yet, but, we think, man, I love hanging out with Bill. And so I'm going to bring Bill in because Bill's the best guy ever. Turns out Bill's a horrible employee. He's a great guy to hang out with on the weekends, but he's a horrible employee. He doesn't do the job well at all. And he, had demanding and, just bad fit and all that. And, there's an infinite number of stories out there that you can hear of that sort of thing. I know a friend of mine who hired a friend of his, and he worked for a while, but it was a temporary thing. Like he was helping the guy out. Like he was in between jobs, and he said, well, why don't you come work for me while you're looking for another job, and it'll kind of supplement your income kind of thing. And then he, 6 months later started complaining about how much he was making, and it turned into something it wasn't supposed to be in the first place. And so, yeah, you got to watch out for that.
Any learning curve, Dwayne, on a team fire?
Well, if you have your whole team coming to you saying that, it's us or that person, I think it means I've waited too long already to start talking. You know, I would have to take the blame for that if I got that. I should have already done my due diligence and kept up with it and listened to my team, because I take pride in the fact that I talk to them every day, and I not only talk but I listen, and I'm encouraging them to tell me, how can we get better? What's our hurdles? And by doing that, I would think I would be hearing, you know, that we have a problem with this person, and I would have already been dealing with them, you know, coaching them, helping them, educating them, doing something to make them better. And if I did all of that and they still aren't getting better, then there's decisions that need to be made at that point. But I think if they come to me with a black or white, yes or no, they got to go, I've already messed up. I'd have to take the blame myself.
You know, Tom, it reminds me of the gut intuition that talks to you. You know, that little person, you know, that's
Yes.
with you when you put your head on the pillow at night, is saying, you know, Bobby, it's time for him to go. And you do that 300 times, 300 days. Are we listening to our intuition enough?
What we hear from members more than anything else, it's the same thing. I waited too long. That's what everybody says. I waited too long. One of the good things I think that I've heard as shop owners get older, the older the shop owner, the quicker they fire, because they've learned over and over and over that I waited too long. And finally, about the time, you know, they're ready to retire to the Caribbean, they've got it about right. Yeah.
They're hardened.
Yes.
Hardened.
Well, they're not hardened in the sense that it's best for the person who's being fired to say, you're not a good fit. It's time you go to a different industry, and you have certain gifts and talents. Everybody does. This just isn't you. So you need to find a different one. And of course, you have your people to think of. So it's beneficial for everybody, the employer, the other employees, and the person getting fired. Everybody wins if you really analyze it closely.
So you've got this I'm sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, you know, one of my clients had a situation, I think you could call it a team fire, where it was pretty much service advisors against technicians. And this is a great client. This guy's really in touch with all of his employees. And, you know, it ended up in all of those technicians leaving and getting completely restaffed. And it kind of reminded me of what we were talking about, you know, earlier about, you know, hiring somebody for life. And it's idealistic, and I love it. And I think you should take that approach to it. I think, you know, part of the reality of that is people change, people get burnt out. I've seen in my own shop and in some of the clients I've worked with that people fear change, even good change. And it baffles me a little bit, but when the shop changes and changes that we might think are more positive, you know, better customer service or, you know, things like that, or more training, and guys get a little weirded out by it, and it's not what they signed up for. So, you know, and I'm definitely guilty of waiting too long. And then, you know, once things change, I'm like, man, that was really kind of a good thing. So, you know, as idealistic as it is to keep somebody forever, you know, I think somebody told me once, you know, if you're looking at a resume and you see someone who's moved around every year, okay, you know they're a jumper. You're not going to hire them because they're not going to stick around. But on the flip side of that, I remember a resume where this guy had worked at one shop for 25 years. And the comment that was made, I think it was by Cecil Bullard, said, this guy's got no drive. You know, there kind of can be a natural progression of somebody, you know, like I feel like if I'm hiring an order, like I mentioned, I made a mistake because a guy took a step down, but I can be a step up in somebody's journey. You know, I had a couple guys, one of them ended up going and working for one of our vendors, one of our performance vendors. It was a great opportunity for him. I couldn't really, you know, deny him that. I mean, he's been great for us, and you know, he went and worked for them. And I mean, I tell a lot of my guys, I want you to be happy. You know, if you're happy here for 20 years, that's great. If this is a stepping stone for you onto something bigger, you know, I mean, you know, are we in a generation where we get lifers anymore? I'm just not really sure. You know, I see resumes all the time. I think 5 years is an amazing tenure. 10 years is like awesome. And I'm fortunate. I mean, I've got some long-termers, and I hope they stay. But if they decide at some point that they're ready, you know, I wish them well and say thanks for being part of the team.
I had a thought when, and I can't remember, Jude, it may have been you talking about it, is someone saying they're not happy with change. and the thought that I had, and Dwayne, I think you may have touched upon it. You're talking to your people all the time. It sounds like you're all doing that. If we're sharing our vision, if we're sharing what our strategic planning is, because you continue to hear every 3 years you have to look to reinvent yourself, business model transformation stuff. And if we're sharing it with our people, would they be that surprised to accept the change that's going on and consider that they're just not here welcome anymore? So, I mean, if we're going to hire for team dynamics, is part of our responsibility is to keep our people totally engaged with where we see Compass North, the northbound train.
I think it's important to keep, selling the vision. I mean, you have to sell the vision when you're hiring somebody, obviously, especially if you're going after, top-notch candidates, rock star status type people. You're not going to just be able to go, I'll pay you 25 cents an hour more than the other guy. You have to sell them the vision of where you're going and what your company's doing and how important it is. And I believe you can't, have a great, recruiting meeting where, you bring them in and it's amazing. And, we're doing all this great stuff. And then, a few months later, it's just back to, everybody's, flat line. You've got to be, I'm assuming, of course, that vision is legitimate, that you're actually, you weren't just selling them, you were actually going to deliver on what you were saying. And so you've got to be constantly doing that. And one of the things employees, I'm sure you guys all know this, want so much is they want to be in the loop. They want to feel like they're a part of it. They cannot stand when there's all this stuff going on behind the scenes, and, there's too many stories of Enrons and crazy stuff like that going on out there. The people, they don't want to be in a situation like that where they have no idea what's happening and suddenly the boat's going down and, the leaders are on a lifeboat floating away already. They don't like that. So they want to be a part of something. Everybody does. Some people want to be a bigger part, some people want to be a smaller part, but everybody wants to be a part of something, and they will grab onto a vision. So you've got to be reselling that all the time and living it. I mean, being a part of it. If you're going to be there and you're going to be part of the active and working team, you've got to be, constantly exuding that vision and letting them feel it. And just like, hey guys, we're getting there. We're going to, today we're doing this, next week we're going there. This is the next thing coming up. We're working on this one. Then we're going to put that back there. I went to, my lead technician, my foreman, and I said, listen, I want you to make X amount of dollars. How do we do that? How are we going to put together a program? How are we going to build the business to where I can pay you that kind of income? And, weird, he got excited about it, right? I mean, he's like, yeah, let's do this, rather than just kind of going through the motions and collecting a salary.
So people's it. You take care of your people, will they take care of your customers?
I think so.
Yes.
I love what you said, Jude, just a moment ago, and the word that came to my mind was engagement. Can you all here on the forum say, yeah, we are totally engaged with our people. That's why we have tenure. Like Brian, you said, maybe 5 years is great today, and maybe 10 is, like being married 40 years. How challenging it is to lock down anything. But I guess the curiosity that I have based on the discussion here is, how do you bring on a new employee and engage them in your culture? Are there steps that you look over here at your process sheet and say, these are the things we're going to do in the next 30 days to ensure? Ryan, you were smiling.
I think you get.
I think if you've done a good job with your existing culture, everybody, they're going to, by osmosis. Now, I'm not saying we're not doing training and we're not going to show them the processes and how we want the job done and, try to clarify that as I've sold them on the vision to make sure that they're involved. But once they're actually in the day-to-day, nobody wants to be the odd person out. I mean, if you come in and you're the new person, most new people, want to be, want to do what everybody else is doing. So if the culture is already there and it's very, very well established, my experience is most new people will kind of, by default, accept that culture and want to be a part of it. And, regular meetings at the shop. We do that, and we do regular reviews, and those are opportunities to, if something doesn't seem like it's fitting in, to try to address that. But yeah, I think the best way is, again, to already have that culture, firmly in place. And that's kind of a longer term thing. Part of our culture, I think, is, being a top performer, trying to always be on the top game, trying to constantly improve. I hear people say, it was stagnant at the other place. So we're always trying something new. New software, something new at the shop, a new tool, you name it. They get the resources that they need. So again, I keep seeing that constantly in the interviews and the resumes that, people say, I wasn't moving forward anymore, or the shop wasn't moving forward. So, and it's kind of an aside into our culture, but, again, I think when it's firmly established and you sell somebody on that and they come in, they've been told what to expect, they get there, the expectation is met, and, hopefully they weren't, all BSing you in the interview. So.
Dwayne?
Ryan hit it on the head. I think if you have the culture already, it makes it so much simpler to get the buy-in. When we have our meetings, our weekly meetings, we go around the room and ask everybody, where are we going, what's going on, and then we get their input, and we encourage them, and almost, I don't want to say demand, but they need to have something to say. They got to have something for improvement. It's our job to react to that, to not let those words just fall on deaf ears. As if they have an idea, even if it's a bad idea, think about it, decide, and then go back to them and tell them why, why this isn't going to work. Don't let them think that their voice was unheard. That's the worst thing. You want them to at least know that you heard them, even if you didn't agree with them. But with the right culture, I'm lucky, I'm blessed. I have 5 people this year hitting 10 years. And it's great. And it's spread all out through the company, which is even better. It's not all in one place. So I have the senior people. And when someone new does come in, they get to see the culture from the guy, the man, the woman, whoever's in charge, that has been here for a long time. And it's contagious. With the right culture, it just keeps building.
I love what you just said. You basically said we have a culture of continuous improvement. And I guess if I was working for you and I realized I was going to a meeting and every week I had to bring something, man, you got me engaged. Wow. Tom?
Yeah, you get a buy like the first 2 weeks, and after that, you need to talk or we're going to sit there and wait.
Well, what we've run into is, and that's just our situation, we've run into some people are just not comfortable talking in a meeting. So we try to also interact with them one-on-one for those folks who don't care to do that. One thing we did that's been very successful is once a year, we give them a suggestion form, if you will, and they have to give us 10 ideas. And it can be anything from a new alignment machine, I want flavor coffee, or anything with the facility at all in any way. And then we take that list and we make sure that we do something for everybody. Some of those items are going to be picked off for every person in that building. So they're going to contribute in some way or another. Something they wanted is going to happen. That's been very successful. People have liked that. When you're ready to maybe shift gears a little bit, Carm, I've got a question for everybody that kind of from our membership that I'd like to hear everybody's input on.
Great. All right, we will do that here in almost a couple of minutes, Tom. But as and again, I don't remember when we started because we were late getting to the horse race here today. But I wrote down this word reviews. If I was hiring for quality team dynamics and I had an individual come on board and I said, listen, we're doing twice a year reviews. I just want you to know that. Would it be smart to do a review, a full-blown, honest-to-God review where you just listen? You don't review the person, but you listen to that person after 30 days? Dwayne?
Well, I started a couple years ago, which they thought I was crazy at first, but of course, I would review the individual, but I would make them do their own review, and I always make them go first. And 99% of the people are always much harder than I am. I learn a lot about them. I can't say I do it at 30 days, but that might not be a bad idea, but I do it 90. But then I always make them review themselves, and I make their direct report review them. And not as much now, but a lot of them I'll sit in on, and I'll give them my opinion. And usually I'm the nicest out of the bunch, which is surprising sometimes. But people are brutal on themselves, But it gives me opportunities. One is I can help them show where they've really done good, and then I know where they feel they're bad, so I can help them. Sometimes they're wrong. They're not as bad as they think. Other times I know I got more work to do.
The reason that I said 30 days is that I hear that a lot. After 30 days, they didn't show up. They disappeared. I wanted to let them go. We wanted to kill them. It was, all kinds of crazy things. And I thought in anticipation of that 30-day, if you will, anniversary, I recently read or heard someone speak, and I can't place it. When they do reviews, they do the individual. They do a review on themselves. The individual reviews their supervisor, and they ask the person they're interviewing to review the company. 1/3 them, 1/3 supervisor, 1/3 company.
We recently changed our reviews, Carm. We do what Dwayne does, where people review themselves, and we've done that for several years. But the most recent round, I made the very first question a review of the company. The very first question is, what can we do differently? And just to kind of get started on the, what can we do to continuously improve? So, and I've not done the, we do initial, 30 or 60-day reviews for new staff, although I have not done the, the written self-review like we do normally, and that'd be a good consideration for sure.
Yeah, Tom, I'm gonna go to you, but I really want to give you a plug for what you do with Automotive Management Network. And I know you can't all see this, but I've actually opened up and actually copied. I can't remember if I printed how I did it, but the reviews are really excellent, and I love how you do them. You can go on to Tom's site, check it out, actually answer the questions, or you can just click and see the results and get a feel for. I wonder what my peers are thinking about, and I think it's one of the greatest highlights on your site. Of course, besides being able to see my podcasts there, but Tom, you had some input on some questions.
But and a quick point on the surveys that you mentioned, we've tried to do this more, especially lately. Is our surveys initially were primarily directed at shop owners and management, but we're trying to throw surveys in there now that are directed at technicians and dragging some technicians in and having them fill out the surveys. So we're seeing both sides.
Got it.
And especially the technicians often view it as sides more than wish. The question, the biggest question that if our members were watching this today would say, those are all great ideas, and I've heard some of those, and I employ a number of those, and so on and so forth, but that does me no good because I can't get anybody to sit across from my desk and interview in the first place. And my ads are offering $60,000 to $90,000 a year for a technician, or they're offering $35 an hour flat rate, and I get no resumes, no phone calls, and the few that I do get, if I just go through some basic screening, like, do you have a driver's license? That gets rid of a lot of them. Can you pass a background check? Do you have a technician license? We're in states you require that, and that just eliminates so many of them right off the top. So I don't have anybody sitting across the desk from me. How do I get them in here in the first place to interview them? Where do I find these people? So that's what our members want to hear from these guys, from these experts.
I can definitely chime in there. A friend of mine in the industry started a company doing recruiting for technicians, and I'm not sure where he's at right now, but one of the things he told me is it's not any particular secret. It's just hitting everywhere. It's hitting all the points. A lot of people would say, we have a shortage of technicians, and our industry just doesn't have the image that we'd like it to have as professionals, and there's a lot of other reasons for that. And we may not have enough time today to discuss all of that, but I'll try to just give a quick answer. And it's, creating an environment that A players want to join. You really got to put in the effort to have a top shop. It better look like a top shop. Hopefully you've got good people, you've got good culture, the things we already discussed. And in terms of, finding people, leveraging the information age, social media is huge. Do you have a social media presence? Using, Facebook, of course, Instagram, YouTube. Do you have a YouTube page? LinkedIn has a recruiting feature. Have you used that? Getting online. Everybody knows Craigslist. Have the best Craigslist ad. Use all the HTML. Have the bold. Have pictures of your staff where people can make a human connection. I have a feeling that some of the people that aren't getting a response, they're not reaching all of the channels. And if they are putting a Craigslist ad, because I see Craigslist ads all the time, they just don't stand apart. You need to really have a stellar ad. And I can talk more about that. But people have used Monster or Indeed, online forums, networking with every person tool people, bounties. If you can find a headhunter or a recruiter. I know one guy, I can't say who he is. He was out early in the morning sitting outside a dealership, and he had his card for what he was hiring. He watched guys come in and technicians and slid his card, on the technician's cars because he didn't like this particular dealer. So, it's how creative are you willing to be to get people across the desk? If there's a shortage, you're going to have to work extra hard. And what you're offering, it's great that you've got 60 to 90K or 35 an hour, but does your website look amazing? Do your reviews look amazing? It's just, there is no silver bullet. It's like 20 or 30 things that you got to do. And I think at that point, you will have more resumes trickling in, more people that want to work, maybe even have a list of people that say, hey, if you're hiring, let me know at that time. And keeping in touch. I certainly have lots of numbers on my cell phone where if an opening comes up, I've got people I can call. And don't stop recruiting. Don't ever stop. That's a constant thing that you have to do. Even if you're not hiring, don't get caught with your pants down because it's all about timing. Someone might be looking for a job, now, and you take their number and it doesn't work out. And then a year later you have an opening and they're like, oh, the place I went to work for, it's not working out, but they weren't looking on Craigslist that day. So I think that's the other thing is, have recurring jobs. So I'll stop there.
No, keep going. You're doing good.
I was going to say, you could write a book. I think he's dead on. And the biggest thing, and he started off with it, and I think it is it's harder to find technicians nowadays. But if you have the right culture, technicians in your area is a network. They all talk. Everyone talks. So they know if you're a good shop. They know if you have enough work. They know if you take care of your people. If you are investing in the people you have, and then if you're growing in a shop, if you're adding stores or getting bigger, most technicians don't want to be technicians their entire life. They want to start stepping, and they at least want to know when they look up, there's another step. And I think if you have the right culture, it's a little easier to get the next person in. I've hired people and paid them less than they were making because they knew they were moving to a future. And it's because at the time, that's all I could afford, and I followed through on my promises, and those people are still with me, and we moved up together. As far as, another avenue we've used, and we're lucky enough to have a Quick Lube in the one facility that I'm at, I get a lot of young individuals from the Career and Technology Center. And, if I add 1 out of 10, I'll end up putting into the shop and put them with a mentor and grow them. And 2 of my stores, our head technicians came from the Quick Lube. They came, they've been with us since they were 16, 17. And we've recently started an apprenticeship program. It's the whole country's a big push. State of Maryland, where I'm at, is a big push. We've done it for years. We just never put pen to paper and actually gave them their career path, and that's what we're finalizing now. But we grow from within. Because of that Quick Lube, we're able to grow, and maybe they can look into the Quick Lube industry and find some people, because a lot of people want to try it. Quick Lube's a great way to start, and then you find out who actually has some abilities and the right temperament, and then you can push them up into your shop and really invest in them and see what you can grow out of it.
Grow your own is what you're saying, and you have a smart pathway to do that. Excellent. Well, Jude, what are you going to say to Tom?
Well, I was actually thinking of some of what Ryan was saying, because he was giving my kind of elevator speech, passionate elevator speech, because I do recruiting for clients, and not just for my own company, but for others as well. And he was hitting a lot of the points that I hit. But and he's right. I teach classes on the subject of how to hire like a boss, or hire like a boss, all that kind of stuff. And my answer is always everywhere. You need to be everywhere, because you don't know where they are in that moment, and you need to be doing it continuously. You don't just do it, you don't wait till the building's on fire to go buy a fire extinguisher, right? You want to be prepared. You want to be, set up and ready in advance, having a good list of people, good connections, good relationships. But when you're just out, just searching, you've got to be everywhere. I mean, Craigslist, has not been the best in my local area here, but using Craigslist to go to other areas, because depending on where your business is located, one of the things that may be so great about you is that maybe you're in a smaller town, and you can go pull from bigger towns where people don't want to live the life of having a 2-hour commute on either end of their workday, and they want to live in a smaller town. So you can go advertise in those towns, sell them on that town and pull them over from there, or different states, or wherever there's a place where somebody, wants what you have. But again, it goes back to needing to sell who you are, sell what your community, the whole thing. But yeah, the answer is you've got to be everywhere. Anything you hear of that's a possibility, try it. A lot of this stuff is free, even. There's not tons of it that you have to spend a lot of money on, even. So try it. Put your feelers out there everywhere. And I know one of the biggest successes we've have typically is word of mouth. Is getting, like they were saying, getting yourself the status of your shop to where people are just like, wow, I would love to work in that place. Like, you got almost a line out the door of people waiting, like, oh, could I get in and work there? That would be amazing. That's a really great position to be in. But short of that, word of mouth of your employees, that they know a guy who knows a guy who has a friend who, and there's people that are unhappy, but it's got to be the right fit. You don't want somebody just because they're unhappy. You want somebody because they're not in a good fit and you are a good fit. And a lot of times, I can easily steal from dealerships, because there's, unfortunately, a lot of dealerships have a really big political environment. There's a lot of politics and a lot of internal drama and stuff that goes on. And any of us who have built a good culture inside of our business, you eliminate all of that to the best of your ability. And so you can sell them on, you come here and we have fun and we get work done. We don't worry about who's dating who and, love triangles and weird stuff like that that goes on in some of these, bigger organizations. So anyway, that's my answer.
Thank you, Jude. Would that satisfy your members, Tom?
Oh, I think there's some great ideas in there. Absolutely. I agree with quite a number of them. There are, and I've been to a number of some of the member shops who really do check off most of the things on that list. And they're just in the pool in certain areas, and it's certain areas of the country more than others, the pool is just seems to get smaller and smaller and smaller every year. And the demand gets higher, and it just becomes more and more difficult each year to find people.
So you really want to be the place where techs
Yes.
want to work. And that's not easy to, okay, people want to work here. There's so much more. Like Ryan, really, you did a great summary on that, image and culture and all of that. And everything's got to be right down to the uniform. It's got to be perfect. And if it's perfect inside like that, it's perfect for the customer then. See, the customer gets, your business gets the residual rewards from the customer base, because you've done so much great work to be sure that you're building a strong team, and that team takes care of the customer. I'm glad we had this talk. It went places I didn't think. They always do. Every time we get together with an academy, I almost, we've got to do one on recruiting. Maybe you guys should come back and we should do it again. I don't know, but we, every academy spurs other ones, because everyone's so willing to share and give up. And and paid forward, because all ships rise. Jude Larson, Dwayne Meyer, Ryan Clough, Tom Ham, thank you so much for giving up your 1 hour on a Friday holiday weekend coming up. I wish you all a great holiday.
Thank
Good to
you,
meet
Tom.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Same to you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks a mil.